Ndlozi.
Thank you, Chairperson of the House. Since the founding days of industrial colonial capitalism, this country has always hated, despised, and neglected the black youth. Already in the 1940s, the colonial regime had painted the black youth as delinquent, idle, and dangerous. The section of the black population that apartheid hated the most were the black youth, in particular, black youth activists. This image of the black youth as dangerous found renewed emphasis in the early 1990s following the return of the liberation movement. In those days, the black youth were called the lost generation, even by many in the liberation movement. Ask yourself, why was the ANC's first statement on the 1976 Soweto uprising was to condemn the students, call on all of them to go back to school? Why would the ANC's first reaction to the youth uprising be to condemn it in 1976? It is because essentially the 1976 youth were above everything else an abandoned generation, abandoned by its elderly and parents. More than 30 years later, the ANC has sustained this very attitude towards the black youth, in particular the activists of the Fees Must Fall movement. Through its ministers, the ANC sent police to campuses, condemned students, painting them as being used by the CIA, and called on their arrest. To this day, ANC government continues to hold many of them in prisons 3 years after the Fees Must Fall movement in 2015. So we have to just ask a simple question. In fact, even after society accepted the moral power of Fees Must Fall demands, the security and disciplinary apparatuses of the ANC government still take pleasure in arresting, persecuting, and expelling student activists from the universities. We know of Amos Alma Monareng, a second-year informatics student at the University of Pretoria, arrested in 2016, is at home serving a 2-year house arrest sentence. Kaya Cegesha, Yolanda Djanji, Surprise Silowe, Wandile Masango, Tulani Masilela, Mangaliso Sambwa, all expelled or in prison or facing trial, sent there by the ANC government. Many hypocrites will take platform and tell us about destruction of property, destruction or disruption of exams, infringement of individual conveniences, calling them individual rights, and the rule of law. They will speak of these ideals as fundamentals of our constitution, but they deliberately ignore the hard truth that all these rights were brought by destruction of property, infringements of individual conveniences called rights, like the rights of white people to move freely in town at night without black people under apartheid, and breaking the rule of law. Even well-established democracies, celebrated democracies like America and France, in fact, worse for them, their democracies were not brought by protest or civil rights movements. They were brought by war. Men and women carrying guns sewn into killing people. Before you stand here today to tell us about the rule of law, think very hard and think very properly about this constitution that you're going to defend here, that it is the constitution fundamentally brought by people who had gone to war, who had gone to soar and make sure that they come into the country and liberate all of us by breaking apartheid laws. Had you focused on your responsibility to secure a future for the black youth, there wouldn't have been a Fees Must Fall. Instead, you came here to Parliament to sleep, filling your bellies with resources that you were looting in state coffers. Bloody sleepists. Had you come here to work, Fees Must Fall would have not happened. Had you come here to become the parents whose role and responsibility is at all times to secure a future for the young, you would have known that you have to prepare universities so that they are accessible, particularly for the black, talented youth. Instead, you came here to sleep. We are therefore calling on all charges and sentences against Fees Must Fall activists to be dropped with immediate effect, particularly by the universities that have expelled all these activists. Let all those expulsions fall. Allow the children to come back and focus on their studies in the attainment of education. The same way you freed Nelson Mandela, who was arrested in possession of explosive and guns, who had sworn as an MK commander to kill people. The same way you were willing to release him from prison, calling him a freedom fighter, you must free all Fees Must Fall activists from prison unconditionally. They never killed anybody. They never tried to kill anybody. They were fighting for access to education. Stop criminalizing them. Let them go back to school and attain education. These are not criminals like Duduzane Zuma, Mtutuzi Manana, or Andile Lungisa, or potential criminals like some ministers here who are serving in the cabinet of Tumamina. They are freedom fighters who were simply seeking the attainment of economic freedom in their lifetime. That is why the EFF is the only organization that has assisted them to fight in all the legal battles that they faced.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Mpumlwana, you are next.
Thank you. Somlomo bekekileyo amalunga lendlu ahloniphekileyo.
Order, honorable members, can we listen to the speaker on the podium?
Nesizwe ngokubanzi esindilisekileyo bhotani. Lo mba singawo namhlanje unzulu yaye umbaxa. Phambi koba ndinabe mowethu ndivumeleni ndiqale ngicacise nyewe.
Honorable Khawla, take your seat, Honorable Honorable Khawla, what are you rising on?
Speaker, can we be taken serious? We've just given you a high note with a doctor. Can we get a doctor here?
That's not a point of order. Please, let's not waste time. Honorable Mpumlwana, continue.
Universities and colleges, mainly those that were previously meant for whites only, increased their fees exorbitantly. Thus, poor students, mainly Africans, were indirectly excluded from education because of their poverty. This, of course, is contrary to the ANC policies, which promotes free education for all citizens. This is evidenced by the provisions of the Clause 8 of the Freedom Charter, which were inserted by the ANC into Section 29(1)A and B of the Constitution, as well as various conference resolutions of the African National Congress. Students then try to bring their problems to the attention of the government by marching from various campuses. Unfortunately, during these marches, properties were burnt and or destroyed. According to the Minister of Higher Education, the damage caused is about 880 million rand, which is almost $1 billion. This, of course, is a setback. However, the ANC has not diverted from its noble cause. The ANC government has begun implementing free education. Free higher education is provided to students from poor and working class background. Thus, students whose joint annual family income is below 351,000 per year will receive a bursary grant from government, which includes tuition, accommodation, transport, books, and food allowance. The policy will target the first-year students in 2018 and reach all levels in 5 years. Thus, this year, 240,000 students will benefit. The government has also made 2.4 billion rands available for infrastructure at universities, prioritizing accommodation and teaching facilities. We are here dealing with future leaders, societies. There must be culture of respect, patriotism, and appreciation of what the country is doing for them, irrespective of the pressure they are in. We cannot allow students to burn libraries and buildings or assault or murder people just because they don't have money to pay for school fees. The ANC is the parent of all South Africans. It has always been and will continue to provide society with all its needs. It is irresponsible.
Order, Honorable Ndlozi.
It is
Honorable
irresponsible
Ndlozi.
for political parties to use the plight of students to score political points. We are here building a nation, and the young people should participate in that. They should preserve and not destroy the nation. Kunyanzelekile sibonise umkhombandlela. Kunyanzelekile.
Honorable members, I think we listened to
Siyazi.
Dr. Ndlozi speaking. Let's give him a chance. Honorable members, please.